in my eyes, is trying to challenge that type of thinking with the Master Air Maker 8 CPU cooler. They're giving this new 3D vapor chamber a try, added a few modular aspects that are pretty unique, all with a price of $130. And usually this price tag is not associated with air coolers, and so this will eventually hurt the spread of the Maker 8. First, let's start with the packaging, which is way over the top in my opinion. Surely everything is organized just fun. Moving on to the cooler itself, so first we have two 140mm Silencio fans, so good quality there, that move quite a bit of air and have fantastic static pressure. They are illuminated in only red color, so your color coordination inside the case must be thought about. But check out that gorgeous top of the heatsink with lit up middle Cooler Master logo and the end tips for the 8 heat pipes. So thus the number in the name, as it features 8 heat pipes in total. So there's 4 heat pipes that are soldered onto the base, which is the sort of the standard profile for CPU coolers, while the other 4 are part of the Cooler Master's new 3D VC or 3D vapor chamber design, where there is coolant inside the base and the 4 heat pipes, and as the coolant heats up, it turns into gas, travels through the heat pipes, get cooled by the heatsink and the fans, and then it turns back into the liquid form, and the cycle continues. So the cooler base isn't totally polished, and in fact it is actually more textured than what we normally see from most high-end CPU towers. Now the fans are mounted on brackets, so they are easily removable by pressing these clips on each side, and in fact you need to remove the fans during installation, but it's not comfortable if you need to swap the fans inside the case, because these clips are at the base and sometimes they're maybe difficult to access, especially if you have fans at the top. There's no way to pass your hand there, or perhaps you cannot remove the top panel at all. So this simple clip and slide mechanism doesn't really help here. And if for any reason you'd want to swap out the included fans, 120mm fan brackets are included, which grant you extra clearance for memory modules, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. Now, installation from my perspective with a Z170 board was pretty straightforward. You secure the backplate, it's all manual, no screwdrivers required. Then you pop in some thermal paste, which is included, lower the cooler in place to match the 2 secure points on either side, and bam. Then you need a screwdriver to tighten these 2 incredibly tiny nuts, which is so weird given the massive size of the cooler itself. But luckily, the heatsink is shaped to allow a screwdriver to access that spot, which worked just fine. Now, this was of course all done outside of the case, but I imagine the process to be a lot more tedious if performed inside a case. And you should also be mindful that the cooler is giant and heavy. It's 1.35 kilograms and 172 millimeters in height, so case clearance need to be double checked for sure. I actually didn't realize just how tall the cooler was until a good portion of it was sticking out of my system and I couldn't close the panel. And also, if you move the fan position in the top slot, cooler height grows by about 12 millimeters, which means only full tower accommodation is possible. But why would you want to raise the fans here, you might say? Because unless you have some really low profile RAM, you definitely encounter clearance issues. Not only does this fan cover 2 memory slots, but it's practically touching the middle portion of the memory, and lucky for us, this Corsair LPX modules don't have that heatsink right in the middle. Raising the fan to the second position would give us enough clearance for a taller RAM, but then you might have this weird looking top panel for the CPU cooler. So the last piece of installation is cable management, which is connected via this single 4-pin connector to the numbers speak it all, and the package with this cooler seems to be full with the 3D VC, great fans, and and a dense heatsink. Surprisingly, the status quo does not change when we move into the 240 and all-in-ones are half the price. But it's when we move into the 240 and the 280mm all-in-one radiated territory, this is when the Master Air Maker 8 starts to show some weakness. Despite being in the same price bracket, it doesn't cool very well, or it doesn't cool as well as most of these coolers. Noise-wise, it's in the middle. It's good to see that you have the potential for a quiet system with the Maker 8. So concluding words are simple. The Master Air Maker 8, it cools well, it looks awesome, and I do appreciate these, customization element with the top plate that allows you to 3D print your own and really customize. Would you do air cooling or, all-in-one enclosed water cooling for your next build? And if you are choosing the air cooling route, would the Maker 8 be attractive for you? Leave your reasons down below. We'd love to encourage this conversation to find out how the consumers are reacting towards this type of direction from Cooler Master.
Remember back in the days, $70 indicator features a pretty cool etched Rajan Tech logo. I can't overlook the fact that the water block opposed to. I pitted the Orcus against Corsair's ever popular the Orcus. As I mentioned earlier, but while the look of the block is subjective, the weird thing is that most AIOs actually have a bulky block because they include a pump. The fact that Rajan moves it isn't including each fan systems. A good a pure acrylic.
Alrighty, let's turn this sucker on. No, I'm just kidding. It does that for some reason. I don't know why it does that. I should not record my...
This cooler features a twin tower heatsink design and comes with a copper base. Here are instructions. This fan is good and it has pretty much no flex to it in the main box. And this package is one. And there is no fan, but all the accessories and mounting brackets you would need in 7. But let's talk a little about the heatsink. Obviously, this is a twin tower heatsink as it comes with 2 towers. Nice, thick, high-quality aluminum fins are used, and on the top are even two Deepcool logos. One the right way up and the second one upside down. So it's your choice which way you actually install this cooler. It'll show the right logo. Here you can also see the copper heat pipes that go through all the aluminum fins. On this CPU cooler, we have a total of 6 U-shaped copper heat pipes that go through the base. The build quality, the construction is done very good. The heatsink is very durable and has no dangerous flex to it. I'm really curious on how this cooler will perform, and should also keep the cooler. It was very easy to attach clips before, so hats off for Deepcool. On the heatsink right, Deep itself is sleeved very nicely, and the whole thing is black, including the connector itself. So overall it's a beautiful shiny cooler. It's also not that heavy actually. Here's the mirror polished copper base, very reflective. But now let's move on to the specifications. The Deepcool Neptune Air CPU cooler comes with aluminum fins, a copper base, 6 U-shaped heat pipes, and 2 120mm fans. 30 LJ2 plastic, that all the mounting brackets are made out of metal and not cheap hard plastic, which I've already seen on other coolers. So yeah, the installation very easy, fast and simple, just how it should be. On the back here, as you can see, Deepcool also wants you to use the vibration buckles on the mounting bracket itself. Again, hats off. However, I have high profile. Rubber buckles will definitely help reduce even more vibration noise. The cooler looks very nice in my system, and as you can see, I have high profile memory installed, and this Neptune cooler doesn't interfere with my 2 memory modules. However, just like on many other CPU coolers, the first memory slot is covered up, but still, if you have low profile memory, there shouldn't be a problem at all. But let's finally get to the temperature results. So the Deepcool Neptune CPU cooler definitely is a very good cooler.
控制的话，其实就很简单，一样是一个4pin的 fan， 一个 fan 插头，这是4pin，然后再来是它出一个3pin的那个数位灯条的，那我就可以透过这个比较多嘛。
对。然后 P 跟 M 的话，就是所谓的segment 上的，就是高阶跟中高阶的差异。像 M 的话，就是 maker 就是最高阶，对，然后。
Meet the Cooler Master. Came away air balance. So just use this tiny RGB control module, which will let you cycle through some colors and presets, but doesn't offer the same range of functionality as Asus AuraSync or MSI Mystic Light would. The pump top now has an RGB element to it with a translucent Cooler Master logo cut in, but unfortunately this does mean one extra cable, as you'll now need not only a PWM connection, but also a lighting one as well. You can sync up the price. Or two, generally 40 AIOs, and this did hinder performance some. When strapped to my overclocked 7700K test bench, we were sitting around 34 degrees at idle and jumped up to between 72 and 74 degrees when at load. When compared to competitors like the EVGA CLC240 and the Corsair H100i, the Master Liquid doesn't quite perform as well, with thermals generally about 5 degrees warmer. As far as acoustics goes, I actually did note that these fans were a bit louder than the ones on the standard ML240, although with it mounted inside of a case, it's doubtful that a 3 decibel difference would have been audible for a user. However, I did turn them off for this video because you could clearly hear them on camera. The last piece of the puzzle, though, definitely justifies some minor performance shortcomings. This 240mm RGB enabled AIO sells for only $70. That's less than some single fan units out there and far less than other AIOs which I tested today that come in at about $110. That's a $40 difference for those of you playing along at home. And that makes a huge difference to many